There we go.
That's true.
All right, let's see. Do you want to come over this way just a little bit? Are we live? Oh, we're live. 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. All right, let's see here. Okay. We are live. I'm here today with my boy Ashki.
Yeah, man.
Finally, we meet in person.
Yeah,
Finally, we meet in person.
Indeed.
Today's a very special day for many reasons. It's the first time that Ashki and I actually meet in person, but we had already been in communication over the last couple of years. Obviously, today's a day of memory.
Yeah.
We lost Prince exactly 5 years ago. Today, probably about 2 hours ago.
Yes.
And I remember. Do you remember where you were?
That's what we're going to talk about.
We'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wearing my 1999 shirt. Prince was words can't even describe. He was beyond a musical genius. I mean, Ashki. First, I want to get into talking about Ashki. So yesterday, I asked him, "What's your background? What's your education?" This is the answer I got, and I love this. I'm just a humble dervish, mystic, musician, author, friend, lover, and brother. I am everyone and no one, all and nothing. A shaman once told me I'm the voice of the drum. My purpose is to speak wisdom to the tribes. My Sufi name is Ali Nur, the mystic heart of light. I'm here to do my small part in freeing the planet and humanity out of darkness and into divine light. All the other stats just ain't sexy. That's right. So I absolutely love that.
It's almost like a job interview. People ask you questions.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like,
Well, I think you give a perfect answer. So I'm happy that welcome to the corner.
Hey.
This is the corner.
Hey.
I love, I know that when you had first met me, I think you saw me on Michael Dean's podcast or heard me on there. Yeah. And then it was probably about a year and a half after Prince had passed, and Michael was interviewing various Prince fans. If you don't know that I'm a Prince fan, I'm sure you do. And the best thing about being a Prince fan is so many people know it that whenever like a song comes on, I remind them of
it. Yeah.
But they also let me know, like this just played this morning. I had a friend call me and he was playing DMSR for me, dance music section. Yeah. So when you and I first began talking, you obviously knew my background was in the recovery world.
Yes.
Right. And I had told you about how many years I was sober at the time. And then you did something on YouTube to one of your channels and interviewed me. And you had told me about, you have experience with addiction and your family and everything. One of the things that I wanted to bring up today was the fact that obviously it's a recovery podcast, but we want to talk about Prince most definitely today. But our man went out with an addiction. And Prince wasn't your typical, he didn't have addiction to substances as a result of psychological problems that he was growing up, like the average addict or alcoholic that I see in my realms and circles. Prince really had a pain, like he had physical pain as a result of it.
As most Americans do.
Right, most Americans do. And so they get prescribed these opiates, and the opiates truly make them feel good. It takes away the pain. But unfortunately, they develop a dependency upon it. And therefore,
it's never enough opiates to get rid of.
That's the pain. Never enough.
Exactly.
So when they start doing it, it becomes a way of life, and then they need more and more. And we still don't really know exactly what went down or how it went down or where he got it from. But in the end, it was an accidental overdose. I don't think anybody that ever overdoses intentionally does it to overdose unless they're on a suicide mission. But I don't think that Prince was of that mindset. I believe he went too early, way too early. But everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. There are a lot of fans, Prince fans, who have had very, I won't say heated conversations, but intense conversations where they try to tell me that the record company killed him or this killed him or that killed him. And, to each their own. You want to believe what you want to believe. I mean, I've been a conspiracy theorist in my life, but when it comes to Prince, there's some other things that I had knowledge about shortly after, and maybe even leading up into that, where I knew that the day that I got the call from a friend, did you just hear that there was a fatality at Paisley Park? My head first said, gee, I wonder which employee there may have died. And then when they started to actually say Prince, I thought, oh my God, I hope it isn't what I think it is. And sure enough, it was exactly that. So I felt like I got punched in the gut that day.
Yeah.
Because this was like our uncle.
As CeeLo described him, CeeLo said, Prince is my fairy god daddy.
Right.
And I was like, that's what he is to me. He's my fairy god daddy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I would say we're probably around the same age.
Yeah.
We grew up on him.
Totally.
From a very young age. I mean, he was basically the soundtrack to our lives. With many other great artists, but he also affiliated. Nobody else compared. And you just don't see them like that anymore.
No.
Right?
No.
And what really saddens me, this is what's kind of amazing, is that Michael went out.
I'm glad you mentioned Michael, because I want to speak on him too.
For sure. Michael went out like that, and you would have never thought during the time that they were in the peak of their, I don't think there was really ever a peak. They were always in the peak, you know, of
they were the golden years.
Yeah, there were the golden years, definitely. That, okay, listen. Do you remember the day that Elvis passed away?
I do, actually.
Okay.
I do.
I do too.
Yeah.
I was young.
I was driving in the car.
But I remember.
It was Elvis.
It was Elvis.
Right, yeah.
And I remember seeing my aunt who, you know, she was probably around, you know, in her 40s or something like that, but she was crying endlessly, right? And what I knew about Elvis was he was just a, you know, extraordinary artist, like flamboyant, dancing, singing.
And he could sing.
And he could sing.
Yeah, he could really sing.
Then when I read his biography and learned about the Memphis Mafia and learned about, you know, that the fact that when he was on the road, he actually had a personal doctor that would provide him with all of the different drugs that he wanted. It didn't come as any surprise to me that this man overdosed or whatever happened to him.
Sure.
However, he died. He died because of his addiction drugs. So I never, ever thought that we would end up seeing Michael or Prince, because these weren't people that you really ever heard of, like having an addiction problem, right?
Not whatsoever.
And what a sad loss on both ends, because they were forces to be reckoned with. I mean, there was just nobody like them.
True.
Even James, and they both looked up to James, and James had his demons, you know.
James is the Titan. Yeah, he's the Titan. Yeah.
But you know, however you want to view it, I mean, some people will think like drug addiction is bad, but regardless of the fact, these were, I believe, mystics. Like they touched lives.
Yep. I want to get into that.
Worldwide, right? And may God rest their souls. You know, I believe that there's a lot to talk about today. For one, obviously, what just happened in Minneapolis yesterday.
That's significant as well.
Yeah.
Would you be so kind to? I think if my phone is in there on the side. No, another phone. No, on the side pockets. So see what the side right there. Yeah. No. Oh, okay. Oh well.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
We'll try to find it. So as far as there's a lot to talk about. You know, obviously yesterday was huge. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat when I was watching to see what the verdict was going to be. I almost thought we were going to have another Rodney King acquittal, and I think everybody else was prepared for that. But I think the times are changing. Sign of the times.
Yes. Welcome to America.
Welcome to America. That's right. It just so happened to be in Prince's hometown. I wonder how Prince would feel about this and what he would say. You know, and maybe he is looking down. Or maybe he's just right here with us. I don't think Prince is ever really gone.
No,
he's not. No,
and that's what I want to talk about.
Okay, then the floor is yours, because you're a deep spirit. I connect with you. I vibe with you. I notice you have a crystal in your hand. So talk to me. Tell us everything that you feel.
Well, first I just want to take a moment to do like a very quick grounding and meditation. If we could just close our eyes just for a quick second. Those of y'all watching, don't be scared. Just close your eyes just for a quick second. And just feel gratitude. Just feel thankfulness for life, for love, for waking up, for sunshine, for water. Just feel gratitude. The divine source is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. You too, everyone listening, is also at your core omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Omniscient means all-knowing. Omnipotent means all-powerful. Omnipresent means all present, present everywhere. And these three divine forces come out of what we call omni-love, which is love is light. People say love and light, but love is actually light. And from that omni-love, which is unconditional love beyond all understanding, feel that love. Whatever you hold dear, just feel that love coursing through your veins. Just feel it because you are it. When I count to 4, you can open your eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. We on 1.
That's right.
So yeah, Prince, I'm glad you said what you said, Pej, because I'm a little humble dude. I'm not really in any communities. I'm not out there. I'm not pushing anything. I'm not promoting anything, But listening to people, I know that this is a sad time. This is people were deeply affected by I call it the Ascension. I don't call it death. I call it an ascension.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jackson, the same. And they are twins. Prince is a Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
Minneapolis is the Twin City.
That's right.
George Floyd, his twin was a basketball player, looked just like him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this twin energy.
Right.
So maybe we'll touch on Michael too, because I have some insights on that too.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this sadness, and there's this sense of the tragic loss of Prince, mm-hmm. and he went too soon, and he was alone, and
right.
And Rumi, we both have a Rumi connection.
That's right.
I'm actually I'm a part of Rumi Sufi order, mm-hmm. initiated in that order. So I have a deep connection with Rumi. In indigenous cultures, in spiritual cultures, they say you cry when someone's born and you celebrate when they die.
Right.
Over here, we're opposite.
Mm.
It
means we celebrate when they're born, but we cry when they die.
Right. And the baby's crying like, what am I doing here? Right.
Right.
But there's birth and there's death.
Right.
The opposite of birth is death. Mm-hmm. The opposite of death is birth. What's the opposite of life? There is no opposite.
There is no. Because life is just life, right?
But that's correct. Energy is not created or destroyed; it just changes form. Mm-hmm. So there really is no death. Mm-hmm. And this time that we're in, we've got everybody running around scared, and we're locked down, we're quarantined, mm-hmm. all because of the fear of death.
Right.
When if you're born, you're gonna die. It's like you're gonna die.
That's right.
But with experience and spiritual, a little bit of spiritual study, mm-hmm. you come to see there is no death.
Right.
It just changes form.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an experience that, when you said you'd like to have me on the podcast, I'm like, well, what do you want me to talk about? And I said, oh, well, this is coming up. I'd like to share, because I know you're like an OG in the Prince world.
It's just like you.
You know, I'm just a dude in the corner, you know. But I said, well, let me maybe try to help change people's perspective by what I experienced 5 years ago today. Because what I experienced 5 years ago today was just one of the most profound spiritual experiences of my life.
Okay.
And I don't feel that there's a lyric, and Kendrick sampled it. Prince said it too. We're all a star. They've been a star, right? Every nigga is a star. Sly Stone, what was their thing about the star? They had a song about the star too. It's my friend Robert Muhammad and the security over there. But we're all stars. And the Bible says, ye are all gods, children of the Most High God. And right now I feel like DMX coming through, like, you know, another beautiful soul.
Another beautiful soul.
And that's the thing about recovery, is that people that wear their heart on their sleeves, artistic souls, being here is not easy. And if you don't have a profound spiritual experience, and spirit, you know, what is spiritual? What is spirit? Spirit is breath. So to be spiritual is to do what? Breathe.
Breathe.
That's it.
That's right.
It's not about any particular religion, any particular God, or any particular faith.
Right.
It's about breathing. If you're breathing, you're spiritual. So everybody's spiritual.
Right.
Already. You don't have to, you know, do anything crazy or have big crystals or whatever. You know what I mean? You're breathing, you're spiritual. But the time we're in as well is like, I saw a meme the other day and it had two lines. And one line was like, surgery, pills, vaccines. And everybody was in this line. And then there was another line over here that said, change of lifestyle. Nobody was in that line. It was empty. Because everybody wants surgery. Give me, just cut it out, you know what I mean? Pill, take a pill. Right. Headache, take a pill. Want to lose weight, take a pill. You know, vaccine, take a vaccine, take a shot. Yeah. I can see my children, I can do this, I can do all these things that I can't do. Right. And it's the medical industry. And I don't, you know, I'm not trying to hit on the medical industry. Right. But it's true. There are gods. You know? We look to them. We look to them, for salvation. That's right. The church of pharmaceuticals, big pharma. Big pharma. But then there's change your lifestyle. You don't need all these things. Right. Change your lifestyle. But it takes work. And working is, you know. But with Prince, because we know one thing about Prince, his love was his work. That's right. And his work was his life. And just I won't ramble because I can ramble. Right. My first experience with Prince was the Dirty Mind album. And my dad brought, this is crazy, he brought the Dirty Mind album and the Time album. Right. I'm like 10, 11 years old, right? And I'm looking at this dude in his drawers, right? In his bikini briefs, you know. And then there was the Time record, they both were black and white, and Time had 6 dudes in black and white with the you know, with the suits, and they look like they was from the street. That's you know. So I love that Time album. I like Prince album. I was like, why is a girl singing on all the records? You know, because I understand. You know, I understand the falsetto. Right, I understand that, and head and sister, and I'm like, now I know I shouldn't be listening to this, but I had no idea that they both were Prince. I had no idea. That it's all Prince. I was in Kansas City at the time. Right. You know, there was no internet. Right. You know, I did not know that these were both 2 Prince records. Right. Right. And then this is hilarious, and you know, for younger people that weren't around then, it tells you how Prince was seen at that time. But the controversy came out, right? Right. Right. And this is before MTV, and they used to show little videos. So there was the sexuality video, the controversy video, you know, both shot in the same studio. And there was Dirty Mind Uptown, you know, so they just kind of replay these same videos, you know. And so my dad went out to, we were in Kansas City at the time where my good brother Robert is from. And with the record store, and he bought the cassette for controversy. Right, put it in, we're grooving. And all of a sudden, about 4 minutes in, Our Father, My dad was like,
got praying on a record.
he skipped it, you know what I mean? And then it's like sexuality, right? It's like, look, he had a Fiat at the time, right?
Yeah.
He turned that Fiat around. He took that record back. He's like, I don't know what this is, but we are not listening to it.
Wow.
That's how wild Prince was, you know? And then, of course, 1999, that was the record that just turned me all the way out. It was 1999.
1999.
Purple Rain. Prince did not come to Kansas City on the Purple Rain tour. Were you in Kansas City at the time, Robert?
Well, I was in Utah, and he definitely did not. He had not yet come to Utah until I left Utah.
You know, so we had tickets, and then he was exhausted, you know. And
this is during Purple Rain?
This is the end of the tour.
End of the tour, he was already exhausted?
Well, he stopped in Miami. But then he had a few more dates, but he canceled.
Okay.
Because it was the whole Round the World in a Day was out.
Yeah.
He was retiring from touring.
Yes.
They lived to see the
As
dawn.
he said, he was
and I'm like, but yeah, you could see. Yeah, I mean, you go back and watch that. It's like, who, you know.
I think he was over that tour towards the end.
Right.
Yeah.
He was just, I mean, he was 5 records ahead.
That's right.
You know, literally 5 records recorded ahead.
Absolutely. You know?
Yep. So I didn't actually see Prince. Well, Saturday Times, Love Sexy. I call those the golden years.
Yeah.
Because like Stevie Wonder, who's really kind of Prince's
mentor.
What's the word? Predecessor in terms of the genius that does everything himself.
Right.
And is literally doing something that nobody's ever heard.
That's right.
You know, literally taking you to new worlds you've never experienced.
Right.
Stevie Wonder is his predecessor. Ray Charles would be Stevie Wonder's predecessor.
Right.
You know. So Stevie had his golden period, which was like some would say Music of My Mind. I would say Talking Book.
Right.
To about Songs in the Key of Life, where it's just like nobody can, you know, come on, man, you know. And Stevie had a near-death experience, I think, during 72, 73. And they weren't sure if he was going to make it. And I really feel that even further propelled him because he went to the other side and came back. So Prince had his golden period, which I would say, I was thinking about this more, I say probably from 83 to 88. It's about 5 years. Right. Where it's just like your creative juices are just like
flowing.
And there's nothing, you know. And I think with Prince, and I'm going to get to this, come to the experience, with Purple Rain, it's like when we're ambitious and all of us have, you know, things that we strive for, things we want to do. But when you get it, it's like, well, what do you do with it? Right. And so when Prince, you know, went to this, you know, Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, you know, Beatles level hysteria fame, what did he do with it? I feel it was like validation to further who he is. Now I have I thought I was this guy. Right. Now I know I'm that guy. That's right. I've got the money. I'm going full steam ahead.
Watch this.
Right, with my vision.
Yes.
You know, and I really think that, now at the time, I love this band. I particularly love Dez Dickinson. Where's Dez at over there? That's right. So when I saw When Doves Cry Baby and I saw this little white girl over there, I'm like, where's Dez?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But I think Wendy in 83, when she came in.
18 years old.
18, right?
She was 18.
And I mean, the Prince was, okay, so Stevie Wonder recorded songs with He Like at 25. Prince recorded Purple Rain at 25. Michael Jackson did Thriller at 25. Right. Einstein did The Theory of Relativity at 25.
Did he really?
Oh my God. So the rest of his life, he's like, that's what he's known for. The rest of Michael's life, Thriller, that's what he's known for. Prince, Purple Rain, that's what he's known for. The Theory of Relativity. Right. So
that's really cool, man. I did not know that.
Right. Yeah. So it's like there's something about
it's a golden age.
Yeah.
For people's most creative juices to flow.
Exactly. Because it's the youth and it's the energy and it's the, you know. So with Prince, I think when Wendy came in, who is a twin. Right. Remember back to the twin energy, the Gemini, the Twin Cities. So when she came in and her other twin, it's like a trifecta, is Lisa. So you got Lisa
and Wendy.
Wendy, Lisa, Susanna. You know, so it's like this. So I think that was the start of basically like with Stevie Wonder. It's like you got these 7 notes,
right?
right? You've got these 7 colors, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the job of a true artist is to create a new color that no one's ever seen.
Yes.
So Stevie did that. Prince did it. I don't know how many times. Like Miles Davis did it. How many? You know what I mean? It's like some people, you know. So those I said were his like golden years. And actually, and he said himself, after Love, Sex, it's like I don't need to prove anything to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like I'm like, you know, nobody, can't nobody, you know, it's like, don't even try.
Right.
It ain't happening, you know? So the only time I really wasn't down with Prince, like that's my dude, was when he brought in Tony M, and I was like, you don't need to rap, you're Prince, you don't need to rap, you know,
right.
It's like, you know? So those 2 albums, the only time I was like,
you kind of checked out for a second.
Because I was, you know, at times I was into Jane's Addiction,
right.
I was into, you know, I wasn't, you know. But then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, during that time, I'll say this right now. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah,
I was a major hip hop junkie.
Right, exactly.
So like, I love,
exactly.
I grew up on West Coast, East Coast, all of that stuff. Like
NWA.
So when Prince himself, from what my understanding was, wasn't really a fan of trying to incorporate rap into his music unless he was the rapper, or unless like Cat or Sheila were going to do like a female rap. But when he brought them in, I feel like during that time it was sort of like an MC Hammer, you know.
Yeah, right. It's the pop rap.
It was like a pop rap. And so when he brought them on, I thought, okay, well, you know what? I was doing research, and there was no Google, there was no internet. So we were finding out our information from like Uptown Magazine and shit like that, right? And so when I was reading, I was like, wait a minute here. Tony, Damon, and Kirk they're basically the dancers that are in the movie Purple Rain, that were the Game Boys up on the rafters. And then later on, he brought them in to be on the Nude tour, which as dancers, because Prince was like, at that time he was in his early 30s. 30s. And he was very, very active. He was dancing, and it was good, but he needed some other backup dancers that could.
Because Hammer was the number one artist at this time.
And so during that, and all of a sudden he kind of had them rap it, or mostly Tony rap. And Tony and I actually developed a great friendship.
And that's the thing that, like, since like I hear anything Tony, I'm like, oh, that's a cool dude. You know what I mean? But at the time, I'm like,
from the inner city, from
and Prince's too. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, but still, it's like you Prince, you don't have to do that. You're Prince.
Yep. And I think over the year after that, he himself figured it out, because you didn't see much rapping in his music unless he was doing it.
And then he brought in Dougie Fresh, who's like a legend. I'm like, okay, you know, and he gets the party started, and he's always been positive. I mean, Dougie never cursed. I mean, he
even messed with Chuck D for a minute.
Oh yeah, Chuck D came on. Yeah, exactly. Chuck is a legend.
Legend,
you know what I mean?
major legend.
I mean,
so you were checked out during that time.
Yes, and then so I was in a record when they had record stores, and I heard the Come album came out.
Oh yeah.
And I heard Papa, and I was like, the hell is this? And then at the end, that part where it breaks, and I'm like,
just broke it down hard.
I'm like, what is this?
Right.
I'm like, give me that album, you know. And then from Come to now, I've been back on. So just 2 years, I was like, now he was still my boy. I got all them albums. I was still getting bootlegs, you know what I mean? And then, of course, the slave era, which I think that slave era is like the most, if there's ever going to be a movie, I want to move from that. I think that's the most intriguing era, you know. But with those 5 years, basically, okay, like with Stevie, after Songs in the Key of Life, he did Secret Life of Plants, which people's like Prince talk about too. Stevie lost his damn mind. You know. And then, so basically, you create this new color, this new palette that nobody's ever seen before. So after you do that, what's there left to do? But paint with your new palette. So the rest of Prince's career, basically, he was painting with the palette that he, you know, designed, because it was his palette, it was his sound, you know. And you know, there's brilliant. Every Prince album, there's always like a master, at least one, at least, I don't care what album it is, there's always at least one, usually 3 or 4 masterpieces. Jehovah's Witness time. Rainbow Children, one of my favorite albums.
That's what somebody actually just wrote. The Rainbow Children is unbelievably funky.
It is.
It is. It was a. He wanted to keep it as like it seemed organic, jazzy, like jazz fusion sound. But did you go to the tour?
I was just saying I missed that.
You missed that tour?
Celebration. I was in a little itty bitty town where like Prince wasn't trash.
During that time, it was really cool, and I was on drugs. So I mean, like, regardless of the fact, like, I still made it to those shows, and I wasn't well. But I do remember, like, he would do these right before
sound checks.
He'd do the sound checks and let the fans come out and interact. I used
to read about it, being like,
and talk with him. And I was talking to my friend from Joe Ortiz, who's also a Prince fan, but also works in the recovery world. I was rapping with him, and I told him, Joe, because he told me like he himself was on mad drugs during the Musicology tour, but he remembered something that had happened. I said, Joe, I went to the Aladdin in Las Vegas. I was on
the one that they filmed.
The one that they filmed. I was on methamphetamine. I do remember sitting in the sound check, and I do remember the concert was live. It was dope as fuck. But I just remember like being out there, and I guess Afshin Shahidi, who's a Persian,
legend,
who was Prince's photographer a number of years, over a decade. Caught a picture of the crowd, right? And right in the middle of the crowd was this bald-headed Persian singing away, and little did they know that, and everything else was blurred out around it. That ended up right on the DVD for one line alone. Right when you open the DVD, there I am. I'm like, well, like the highest dude in the house is on here, right? But it was a great time. Those were good times too, from what I remember.
Right. Well, and that was like, I think Prince said, okay. That's when he was Prince again.
Right.
It's like I don't need to chase no trends. I'm gonna do where I'm at. John Blackwell came in.
Oh yeah. So
you know,
he was maturing.
Right, and it's like I'm coming, and I think even though that's a controversial time,
he got his rights back.
He got his rights back, and I think because people used to dog Larry, but it's like
people used to dog Larry, and I don't know why, because he brought on Larry Graham, who was his childhood bass idol. The guy was like, Larry, come on now.
And I mean, I think Prince experienced a level, we all go through a fundamentalist phase of whatever's new to us.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's just a prerequisite for, where you're like how many of you know how God wants to be worshipped? You know what I mean? Let me tell you, you know what I mean? And Prince too, coming up extremely poor, broken home. He had this competitive thing, which was the time and his thing. And even when Mike was like, I got to base him up, like, you can't do it. You know what I mean? It's just like, and that never left him. You know what I mean? So, but I think that gave him a level of peace and order that he needed in his life at that time.
Right.
And then we get to musicology, and it's like now I'm like, no, I'm the elder, I'm the teacher, and it's like I think those years where he truly became Prince. It's like I'm not self-conscious, because like if you watch the early, like the Michael Prince thing with James Brown, he was very self-conscious in those days. He wasn't, he was still figuring it out.
Are you talking about the one where
he knocked over the pole?
Yeah, what was going on? I mean, did you ever you hear a lot of different versions of that. So we're talking about right now, James Brown had a show, I think it was at the Beverly Hilton, right?
Somewhere.
It was probably 1983 because Prince,
1999.
It was 1999 era because Prince had
early 1999.
Right, and Michael was doing Beat It, right?
Yeah, he had on,
it wasn't even Beat It yet. I think it was Billie Jean.
Probably.
It was right around that era, right? So James is performing with the JDs, and then all of a sudden he brings up Michael out of the crowd.
Right.
And Michael comes up on the stage. He does his whole Michael thing, his whole dance routine and all that. And the crowd is going crazy. They're roaring. They're loving it.
Right.
And then, from what I remember, Michael goes and whispers in James' ear, go get Prince. And so he goes and calls Prince up. Now, one has to wonder, is he saying, go get Prince because me and Prince came to this tonight, or I happened to notice Prince was in the crowd? Regardless of the fact, if you really are like deep in the Prince world, you know that when Prince was a kid, Prince's parents put him on stage at the age of 5 with James Brown. So from there, like already, like this became somebody that was highly influential for both Michael and Prince. To be a fly on the wall in that room that night, just to witness these two legends that were in the making be up there with their ultimate like
the prototype.
The prototype.
Zeus.
The man, right? And Prince grabbed the guitar and started just jamming with the JBs. And who knows if the guitar was in tune or whatever.
Yeah.
He just started playing. It wasn't anything fancy. He was just going around with the funk. He just like hit the licks and all that. And then the next thing you know, he starts like kind of losing his shit. And not so people said, was he loaded? This stuff.
Right.
I don't even know. I think he was just being silly.
I think he, again, like with We Are the World, he liked to be in control.
That's right.
And I think just because it was Michael and it was James, and then he came out on Chick, and then like I think he knocked her. It was just like a bad news bear.
He came on Chick's shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
He was so little compared to Big Chick.
Right, and I think it was just a thing where he was very self-conscious. He wasn't Prince yet.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know, where it's not a thing where like
he was
self-conscious. We looked for like 2004. My Guitar Gently Weeps. It's like I'm Prince.
Right.
It's like whoever is on stage, I'm the star.
That's right. He took over that.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
That was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
If that Prince would have been in '83, everybody would have been like, but he's still coming into his.
He came into that.
Prince.
That was with Tom Petty. That was with. Do you need some water?
Yeah, it's in the black thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 2004
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that was George Harrison's son was on stage playing My Guitar Gently Weeps with Tom Petty, Roy Orbison, and a few other artists. And Prince happened to be one that was asked to come and
he was inducted that year,
right? He was inducted that year, right?
So he was a college year,
and he took over.
He just did Prince.
Yeah, he took over.
It was just a normal Tuesday.
Yes, yeah.
It's a normal Tuesday because this is what I do.
I think the rest of the people on stage were like just awesome.
They don't know.
They don't know.
You know, because Prince was almost like
Tom Petty may have known, but then
Tom Petty was cool.
Yeah, he was cool.
But you know, the thing about Prince is like, okay, from '88, you know, Parade. It's just like people are like, "Are you still in the Prince?" You know what I mean? Like that's he's doing this weird. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Prince is almost like a secret.
Right.
You know, up and from like the 9-0 changed his name, he's just crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Slave on the side of the
right. Like, what's he doing? What crazy things he's doing now? Right. And then, you know, 2004 is like everybody finally caught up to this. It's like, oh, and we always, you know, it's like, okay, this is the week. You know, go to the after show. Right. This is the week. This is the pop. He's giving y'all, you know.
But you know what's cool? I'll tell you this one time. One time in like 1996, I was at the Palladium. And Prince, it was in Hollywood, and I remember that it was before the show started, and I'm sitting in a few seats, maybe like 10 seats back, and I look in front of me, I'm like, who's this dude that's sitting in front of me? Aren't you Steve Vai?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah. And I go, what are you doing here? He goes, what do you mean?
I'm in school.
He goes, Prince is the master.
Right.
To have Steve Vai tell you that, right?
Yeah. I grew up playing guitar, and I saw the real Van Halen, David Roth, you know what I mean? With them, you know what I mean? So I know about all the guitar heroes.
Right.
Where are we at on time? Because I can talk about Prince Radio.
We have another 20 minutes.
Oh my God. Okay, so let me get to the main reason.
Okay, go for it.
The Ascension. So, as I stated earlier, ye are all God's children of the Most High God. So what makes a star? You're all stars. What makes a star? Stars are people that we all come here with a bank of talents, of wealth. It's the month of Ramadan, and the mystic Islamic tradition, they say every one of you said yes to earth before you came here.
Right.
So stars are those people that actually max out their divine credit card. It's like, okay, this is why I came. Okay, I'm doing it, and the rest of us are struggling to find it. You know, to find that group, to find that. You know what I mean? Prince is someone that did it.
Right.
My assertion is that Prince actually, all of us are like this. Like I said in the opening, all of us are gods, but Prince was really not human.
You're right.
He's really not human.
Who was it?
Michael was really not human.
Right.
We have a human side,
right,
and the talent and whatnot comes from the divine side. But it's like when you fully give all of your energy to that talent, to that divine gift, you become divine too. Now,
yes,
Patti LaBelle said it. He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep. He lives on the spirit. So, but we're still in this human form, which is a very fragile form. Our bodies will betray us. You dance the way Prince dances. You play for 12, 16, 15, every day.
Right.
This body will wear out. So it's like, how do I channel this divine force through this weak physical body? How do I do that?
Right.
Michael Jackson, they said, Robert, my brother over there, he's been to Neverland. And I wish that we had more time. Maybe we will get into to something on Michael. But they say Michael, his mind was so flooded with ideas and stuff that he couldn't sleep.
Right.
Because he was a divine being.
I was thinking. Yeah.
He couldn't, because actually we have a part of us that doesn't sleep. We don't think about our heart. We don't think about,
Right.
And that's the part of us that doesn't get wet. It doesn't get burned. It doesn't die. So in 2016, 5 years ago today, we lost the great David Bowie too.
Right.
Who, like a lot of people, my parents were like, man saw the earth. The man who fell to earth when that movie came out, I was like, he's an alien. He's not.
Right.
This is a documentary. This guy is not from here. Right. Again, another one of these like talents. It's like this dude's human.
Right.
So there's a group of us that were doing solar practices. Can you hand me my phone, brother? I was trying to find the other phone, but thank you. So the thing is that to communicate with the sun. Now, Prince talked a lot about the moon. He didn't talk a lot about the sun.
Right.
He talked more about the SON more than the SUN. They're the same thing.
Right.
So there's a group of us that were working on communicating with the sun and having the sun communicate back to you.
Right.
And so I was doing this practice on the morning of 2016, 5 years ago today. And music always puts me in a zone. So the Syracuse 1985 version of Purple Rain happened to come on while I'm doing this solar practice and talking to the sun and trying to get the sun to talk back to me. And for the first time, Prince always used to go like, if you know what you're singing about, raise your hands, right? That day I understood what he was singing about. And that version of Purple Rain always makes me cry.
That's probably the best version of Purple Rain.
It always makes me cry. And I think too, like that tour is like, that's like as a performer, as the master, that's when he became like Prince, was that tour.
Right.
Because when Parade hit, he was like Duke Ellington. He was like, it was just like, get out of here, man,
Yeah.
So I'm just crying, like, not crying like, you know what I mean? And Purple Rain, the chakra system, you have your violet chakra, which is the crown.
Right.
So in enlightenment, when you reach enlightenment, there's a liquid, they call it soma, that begins to bathe the body. That is Purple Rain. It's the ultimate spiritual enlightenment or attainment. Purple Rain. Some say, okay, the sky was all purple. It's like red and blue, blue sky, the blood. That, what I say, would be on a lower level. On a higher level, that's what it is. It's complete spiritual purification and merging with the divine.
This is really interesting that you talk about this because you started off with saying at 25 is when when that happened. During that time, Prince had another song called "I Would Die for You."
Yes.
He said in the song, "I'm not a woman, I'm not a man.
I am something that you'll never understand." Exactly.
Right? Then obviously on the outside, externally, what we started to see was a lot of people say, "Is Prince gay?" Like, but he was an androgynous human being that would look very well in your mother's clothes, or he could wear a man's nice suit, right? And could pull it off either way. He had a good physique. He had a good body for that. He was very small.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about down the line, there was times he would talk about the sun. You're right.
Yeah.
But did you notice, and I really want to talk about this today because obviously there was a song called "Way Back Home," but in that particular era, which was 2014. Did you notice that he had many different layers of the moon?
Right.
He had the moons.
Right.
He had the moon earrings.
Yeah.
Now, to some people, that stuff just looks pretty. It's nice.
Right.
The patterns, the way.
Yeah, it's much deeper.
It's much deeper. He was trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
And if you really listen to the song "Way Back Home," which has now become one of my top Prince songs.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's an amazing song.
Masterpiece.
When you listen to "Way Back Home" when it came out,
yes,
I felt like. This is what I felt. My spirit told me something's coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but he's talking in a way like he ain't gonna be here much longer. Right. Now, I love to be able to talk with you about this because you.
Can we go over it?
We can go over it.
Okay,
we can go over it.
Because I'm just getting started.
And I want to go over it. And this is why I love talking to somebody like you. This ain't just about the fact that we're Sufi brothers and all that. The fact that we're Muslims, but this is, I think, where our the love and adoration that we have for Prince comes together, and we can just vibe together and talk about this. So here's the things that happened for me. My experience in 2014 was that "Way Back Home," the album was superb.
It was,
Artificial Age. I mean, just like, wow.
Yeah.
Where did this come from? Right? and
he hadn't had an album in 3-4 years.
He didn't have one in a few years.
Which never happened.
Would never happen for Prince. But and bringing people like like Andy Allo on.
He really came into his mentorship.
In mentorship, right? But
Andy Allo is important, and Judith Hill I want to talk about too.
Judith Hill, and Esperanza too.
But he came into this real big brother role of I'm the
the teacher.
I don't necessarily have to speak with you anymore. He maybe did.
Maybe one or two,
but I can still just mentor you on a pure level.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the album came out. That song came out, and I thought something's going on. Like I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But just the affirmations and the transitions and the way he started talking, and so all of a sudden, piano and microphone tour. I was on Twitter, and I saw this thing called Cheesecake Funk, and they said, if you want to experience the Cheesecake Funk, come down to Paisley. It'll be this weekend. So I'm like, I'm flying to fucking Minneapolis, right? Haven't been to Paisley on the inside ever. I didn't go to celebrations. I wish I did. I was on drugs, right? But I flew out there, and we went in the small room. In the side room, the MPG Music Club room, and he did a 70-minute set. First 50 minutes was on the piano, which was, to me, it was the precursor. 2015 November. Okay. It was the precursor to the piano microphone tour. I believe he was just warming up to a smaller crowd. He had just done an interview that day. About 50 minutes on the piano. He sang "When Will We Get Paid?"
Wow.
Okay, and that, just to hear right there was powerful as fuck. But then he brought out his band. He had Mono Neon on bass. And what's her name? He had Donna. Donna was there too. She was the guitarist, and then Kirk was on the drums, and that was it. And he got up off of his piano and then grabbed his guitar and played Stratus. What was the other one? He played 2 songs, but it was just powerful. And I thought, again, between that album in 2014, end of 2015, this is happening. And then the announcement of piano and microphone tour, right? And here's what I started to think. I thought, he came into this industry as a loner.
True.
Right? With an afro.
Right?
And played everything himself. Now he's got this tour. It's just him on stage. There's no band members. He's had a vast career with many different musicians in many different eras. Now he's playing his stuff. He was playing some memorable stuff.
Oh man, stuff he never played before.
But he also started to talk about David Bowie, his past. He gave David Bowie love, his father, his mother. He played the Batman, what we had been reading in books about the Batman theme and all that stuff. But what I thought to myself is, this almost seems like
he's saying goodbye.
Like and I thought that night. I went to Paisley and saw both shows, and we were up front and everything. And I thought, this is like a ceremonial, Prince style, spiritual goodbye, right? And sure enough, and I'm to say this right now, like on that night, which was January 21st, 2016, I had somebody that told me they were worried about him, and I said, "What is it?" And they said that they think he might be doing some things again. And sure enough, on 2014, after he did a tour, he went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Then he went to
I was trying to get to that show too.
San Francisco, Australia. He didn't look too well in his pictures anymore. It looked like he was kind of deteriorating, and then he was gone.
And it's interesting because during the and being in America, there wasn't, it wasn't. I mean, the internet was nascent. It was like in its baby, infant stage. Your average person wasn't online.
Right.
But during that time, he was very, very frail. And they say too that they're actually on.
You could see he was frail.
On April 21st, I think 95, 96, there was something where he was rushed to the hospital.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then of course, I think Alex Hahn's book, he opens with that, The Rise. I don't know if it's The Rise.
I gotta read that. I have not read that book.
I don't like The Fall because there is no fall. But of course, he recorded on this day. Sometimes it snows in April. Which again, and we've talked about this before, but the soul knows. We don't know. The part of us that actually, if you look in the mirror, this is a spiritual experience. Looking in the mirror is a spiritual experience.
Right.
Who is looking at you?
You. Or is it your soul?
Right.
That's right.
Who is looking at this?
Your soul.
What is this?
Right.
Who's doing the looking? So that you that's doing the looking is guiding your life without your knowledge. Even your heartbeat is beating without your knowledge.
Right.
You don't, it would never be that we was running stuff.
You're not like controlling that, it's doing.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They call it what? The parasympathetic nervous system, right? So the phases of the moon, he had completed all of his phases. It was time for him to go back home. And
there was the picture of his afro face head in the moon.
And his third eye was open.
And the third eye was open.
And he said,
God, he went out with a bang.
Yeah. And again, the physical didn't know. He probably didn't know consciously,
right?
But his soul knew.
Now, even the critics saw the three sunglasses and like, what's Prince doing?
Right, right, exactly.
Where's the third eye?
Exactly.
Third Eye Girl was the name of the group.
Girl. Exactly.
And Third Eye Girl, what was Prince's dream? To always have a band with all female players and him as the lead. It happened.
And again, maybe we'll get into this, but looking at the life of Jesus as it's told in the Bible,
right?
He had 12 disciples around him, dudes, right? But when he was on the cross, there were no dudes there,
right?
It was all women.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I did not know.
All the dudes, like they couldn't hang. Are you with Jesus? Like, I don't know that dude. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But the woman was like, no, I'm with him. His Marys. Okay, so back to 5 years ago today. I'm doing this solar practice and I'm crying my heart out. But it's tears of joy. It's not tears of sadness. It's tears of joy.
Right.
And I'm like, and I understand. I'm like, okay, I understand. And I say today, I'm telling you, now I haven't had a television in 15 years, right? But I said today is a Prince day. I'm gonna rock Prince all day today. The little park that I was in Philadelphia at the time, I saw a hawk. I heard a little bird there. It was a hawk, which is Horus, which Horus was where they got Jesus from, in Egyptology, or chematology. I see little purple flowers that I've never seen before. I'm like, oh, Prince.
Yeah.
I come home. I have a picture of it somewhere, but one of my neighbors had roses in the shape of a heart. And of course, Prince 1990 had the big heart, right?
Right.
And they looked like they were purple. And I was like, it's a Prince day.
Yeah.
Right. So I went over to the girl I was seeing at the Times place, and my dad called me. He's like, Tom, did you hear about Prince? I said, what? They said, he died, Tommy. I said, well, there is no death for Prince. If that's, I don't believe it, but if that's true, he's all right. They can't kill Prince. You know what I mean? And so it was true, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, wow. And then, so that day, the next day, two things happened. Well, a lot of things happened, but there's something called the rainbow body of light.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
They say it comes from like Tibetan Buddhism, but even if you look at Christ, you always see a halo around Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even E.T. with the heart light, you know what I'm saying? Where the body actually transfigures into light. Mm. That's one of the spiritual practices that I do as well.
Okay.
In high spiritual masters, they say when they ascend, their bodies don't decompose like normal humans. Mm-hmm. They turn into light. So the next day at Paisley Park, what happened? There were not one, but two rainbows. That is the rainbow body of light.
And on the Around the World in a Day album cover in 1985,
ladder, right?
if you look at there's a rainbow going over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, two rainbows. And then the next year, there's another rainbow on this day. So I was like,
he ascended.
He ascended. Now, what is ascension? Ascension, you don't have to. Ascension is basically the transfiguration. Like even going back to the cross and say, okay, Jesus was, he was died, and then 3 days later he came back, mm-hmm. right? So what are 3 days later? Said he went to hell. He went to the underworld. He was dead, you know, and then he ascended. When he came back, he was in his body of light. Mm. So I knew I was never sad. Now, obviously, I was like, damn, I'm gonna see him again. There's a human part of you that's sad.
Yeah.
But the feeling I had now, when I was doing those solar practices and I'm bawling my eyes out to the Syracuse version of Purple Rain, right. That is the exact time his body was found. The exact time. So I knew, I was like, yo, he ascended. And then you go back and listen to Way Back Home. You know, most of the people in this world are born dead.
That's right.
But I was born alive. Mm-hmm. That I could find my way back home. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, the human thing, there always has to be, my claim to fame is scandal, right? You know, controversy. There always has to be some controversy, right? You know what I mean? So what really happened? I mean, I heard independent reports that there was like enough fentanyl in the system to kill 1,000 people.
Right, I heard that.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know if it's true. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because we take on struggle. We take on, that's part of that's part of you. That's actually what this earth is. Mm-hmm. It's the training ground for your divinity.
Right.
And those of us that fail the test come back to do it again. Those of us that pass the test transfigure in the light, and we can make our way back home. Mm. I'm here to tell the Prince people that that's what he did. I have no doubt about it. I have no doubt about that Michael Jackson did it too.
Right.
And I want to talk about Michael really quick, mm-hmm. Because my brother there, Brother Robert Muhammad, he went to Neverland and he met Michael. And I know other people, I never met him, but and I'm gonna be really just out with it. Michael represented, I believe Michael was asexual. Mm-hmm. For me, Michael and Prince are twin energies. They're the same divine energy in different expressions. Mm-hmm. So Michael represents the prepubescent, unconditional love. He has a song called With a Child's Heart. Mm-hmm. And of course, Michael, you know, Michael was one of the best singers of all time at 11 years old.
That's right.
At 11, right? Smokey Robinson, like, yo, I wrote this on how little 11-year-old singing it better than I sing. How he doing this? Right? And Prince grew up on Michael.
He did.
Like Chris Rock says, like, my black history begins with Jackson 5. I mean, that's like, we were free then when I saw that, mm-hmm. you know? So Michael represented pure love. As Prince said, Michael, but that's magic, that's his word. Because that's the child. Right? I believe in magic. And Michael had at Neverland, which my brothers went to. He had a whole wing for children like that were quadriplegic, luxury chairs so they could watch movies. And, you know, one thing about pedophiles, they don't do philanthropy.
Right.
And on a spiritual level, there's a demon that's over pedophilia. There's a demon that's over recovery. The word alcohol comes from an Arabic word, al-ghul, which is where the word ghul comes from. It's a spirit. That's why they call it what? Spirits.
It's a ghoul. Okay, yeah.
It's a ghoul.
Yeah.
It's a demon.
Right.
You know? That's why Rumi says most people, if they drink, their demon will come out. Some people, the happy, you know what I mean? The joyful part. But because most people will, you know, something negative will come out, we just ban it for everybody. For everybody's benefit, right? So with Michael, the spirit of pedophilia is a demon named Moloch. Moloch thrives on fear, terror, putting children in terror. There's nothing worse than, you know, messing with a child. There's nothing worse.
That's right.
Like I said, murderers, you know, murderers is cool in prison, but child molesters, it's like, no, you don't get any passes. Our 12-year-old, well, he was in 12, maybe 8, 9, a few years ago, we were watching Michael Jackson videos. And he lit up. You play a Michael Jackson video for a child, boy, girl, doesn't matter what race, what age, they will light up.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that is the spirit of Michael. That was his job, was to light up the world and particularly protect the children of this world. And that awful documentary that they did. And some of y'all might know this, but Michael's niece, so I think it's either Jackie or Tito's daughter, Michael set her up with Wade Robson, the guy that was in the video. And they were dating for like 12 years until he cheated on her with Britney Spears. And she's like, why ain't that in the documentary?
Yeah, they didn't talk about that.
They didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Michael represents that unconditional child love. And if you want to tap into that aspect of yourself, play his music. Prince represents the freaky Jesus, the Jesus with the Marys. That's right. The androgynous. Because your true spirit, there's no need, again, we talk about medicine and the medical profession. There's again, it's not a judgment or whatnot, but there's no need really to go to a doctor to change your sex because you're already male and female. You have a female side, you have a masculine side. Prince was an example of that.
That's right.
So Prince represents that sensual, that love sexy, that unconditional sensual love. Because the most powerful divine force on earth is the sexual energy. And that's what Prince, and they say like Marvin Gaye was like a struggle between the divine and the profane and whatnot. But he merged that. You know, he found complete peace because there is complete peace with it.
That's right.
So he merged it, you know. So that's the ascension. And I really hope that, you know, when people look at Prince, you know, those of us that love him and those, you know, he's been with us all these years through our lives and our ups and downs. It's like when you want to tap into that part of yourself, he's a mirror for us of what we can do. That's right. Right. And that's how we have to look at it. We can't look at, I can't look at it as a tragic thing. I look at it as an ascension. And all the little, like just all the other stats ain't sexy. What's the stats? Oh, he died of this, he died of that, he was in the elevator. Those are they ain't sexy. Right. What's the main part? Go listen to Way Back Home. Go listen to June. Go listen to so many. Another one is Future Soul Song. Beautiful song. I mean, that's like it's like a warm hug or something. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And I got to see him do that live when I went to the Forum. You know what I mean? I'm like, of all songs, even this one for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know? And when he did that one, he had the twins, back to the twin energy. Twins, yep. Wrap him up like, were you there that night?
I got on stage.
You were on stage that night. Okay, right.
That was a very special show.
Woo,
that's
man.
the one that they're gonna. This Welcome to America
Okay.
that's coming out.
Amel LaRue opened up, I think.
They have the Blu-ray of that night.
Oh man.
That's coming out. Yeah, he had. I mean, he played some special songs that we hadn't heard.
Yeah. No.
Like Joy and Repetition, things like that. I mean, we had heard Joy and Repetition years before at the House of Blues, one special time, but that night he did it 17 days.
Yeah.
You know.
No, they wrapped him up like a sarcophagus.
I remember
that night. You know, and it's like, what is this? You know what I mean? But
you know, it's interesting. Somebody's actually sent me a picture of Prince when he was dead on the floor.
I saw it. I didn't want to see it, but I saw it.
I didn't want to see it either, but then I did want to see it. You want to know why? It was a trip to see that this dude that did so much and that was so talented was living there, laying there so lifeless in that little body of his that we have seen over the years make so much movement, so many different styles of dance and fashion and everything. And there it is.
Yeah.
He transcended. He went on.
He looked at peace.
He looked at peace. He did not look like...
In fact, on the plane, because he died a week before.
A week before he did.
And they were like...
They Narcaned it.
And apparently he was like, why'd y'all bring me back?
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid of death.
Yeah.
And he told me on the train, he said, I ain't scared of nothing. You know what I mean?
What did he say? I think Jeremy had flown out there to go see him too. Something about... Yeah, Dr. Funderburg. Something about say your prayers or...
wait a few days. Say your prayer. Say your prayers for a few days. Something like that.
Yeah. So I just wonder, like, even in the end, when he was seeking to go to the... to get the medication and all that stuff, I think at some point when the time had come, it was his time to just go.
Look, we all have what's called an exit point.
Right.
He knew in 1985, again, not him as a human, the human part, the divine part, the part that's navigating his life, knew that April 21st was his exit date. That's why he recorded the song that's always associated with losing someone on that day.
Right.
April 21st. His soul, it was his exit date.
Right.
We all have exit dates.
Right.
You know, a lot of holy people or whatnot, they'll say, oh, today's a good day for me to make my transition. They'll choose, you know, and like one of my teachers died consciously. He was very, again, I'm glad that's why I said that, because now I know what my soul, my human part of myself didn't know why I was writing that, but now I know.
Right.
It's like the stats ain't sexy. So one of my teachers' name was Lex Hickson. I call him my grandpa. I met him 5 years after he passed away.
Right.
In the dream world. He had colon cancer. Like, why do they have colon cancer? He's a spiritual person. Well, you know, those are the stats that really ain't sexy. But he was a Sufi. He was in Vedanta, which is kind of say the more ascetic form of Tantra. He was a Zen Roshi. He was all these things simultaneously. He studied Eastern Orthodox Christianity. So some people he sent them to the synagogue, some people he sent to the mosque, some people he sent to the ashram. You know what I mean? He was all these things in one. Right. You know. So he battled for 9 months with this colon cancer. And to his Sufi community, he said, Alhamdulillah, which means praise God. Allah has blessed me with the spiritual test of colon cancer. That was his perspective. Right. Like, it's a spiritual test. Praise God, I have cancer. Who says that, right? And then when he passed away, he had his family, his children are with him. And he consciously took them through his journey out of here. He told them what it was like. That's a divine conscious soul.
I love that.
You know? And so that's what you are. Every one of us listening to this is seeing everyone you see. And this time too, it's a very, you know, like the election and Black Lives. It's a very contentious time. Right. You know, people believe this and people believe that. And if you don't, I'm gonna cancel you. You know what I mean? It's like we have to develop compassion for other people.
For all.
For all.
That's
Thank you. For all. And it's like, and see yourself, look, one thing that happens, I've died twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already dead. It's like, I really need to stay dead.
Right.
But one of the things that happens when you cross over, you have a 360-degree panorama of your life. Of they call it the bardo, everything you did. Mm. And you get to experience it from all the other people that were around you. Mm-hmm. So you can truly see yourself now. Right. And you have almost like a buddy that would be like, oh man, that was, you did that. And you're like, oh, that was pretty stupid. Right? You know what I mean? But nobody gets away with anything down here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't care what, you don't get away. You have to deal with it. Just like the dog, you put their face and like, look, that will happen to you. Eventually. Yeah. So the Sufi say, die before you die. Right. Do that work now. Right. So you won't have to go through that event. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, back to recovery, I had to discover with my experience that like you can't be Superman. That's right. You know what I mean? It's like we all have to be our own Superman, mm-hmm. And determine. Now again, if you fail, just like spiritual path is the recovery path. Right. It's like how much, what I mean? Where's your willpower? Mm-hmm. And if you fall down, it's okay. Now, will you make it back? I don't know what it's like. Fortunately, I've never had to experience that. That's not the book I had to write down. Right. You know what I mean? So that's why your story inspired me so much, because not only did you come out of it, but then you dedicated your life, which is that 300. See, you did it yourself. You died before you died. Mm. You experienced what you did, and you atoned for it. And how did you atone for it? By doing your work you're doing now. That's amazing, man. That's why I said it's the divine grace of recovery. I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, not only do I know what I've done to other people, now I've got to do something to make up for that and lift other people up. And that's become not only your way of life, but your career. It is. It's not really a career. It's your way of, like Prince. It's not a job. It's second nature. It's what you do. That's right. That's your purpose in life. That's why you're here. Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's you've done it, man. This has been one of the deepest shows I have ever done on the podcast. It was nice to actually get to sit here and listen to you because right on. You are a deep spirit. You're a good man. I had a lot of realizations through this. It took me about a week to get over the death of Prince. Yeah. As far as you're right, like he's not going to be here anymore. Forget about not being able to go on the shows. Like, is there going to be enough music? Of course, there's enough music. Mm-hmm. He made sure to leave us a lot of that, and the music never. It sounds different. Yeah, it does. Now when I listen to it, it sounds. And you know what? A lot of the stuff was pertinent. Mm-hmm. It was. It's coming to life right now with totally. More and more events that are going on in the world. Totally. He was way ahead of his time. He knew he was a deep soul. He knew what was going on. He was very aware of everything. And I love the fact that he also talked about what it's like to be Black in America, and what he had gone through and the movement. And he also, people don't know this, but before he passed, those two shows that he did in Atlanta and in San Francisco, the proceeds and all of the money had gone to helping the community. Right. Helping the less fortunate. He became a real prince. Yeah. He was like really someone that's like, I'm literally a king. I know I'm a king. Right. And I'm doing my work as a king. Right. And another that goes to the body of life is Ascension. And the crown chakra and all in the purple. Yeah. The whole world turned purple. That's right. When have we seen that? Right. I mean, again, as Prince people, we're like, okay, there's this little cult that, like, you know what I mean? No, they did it everywhere. Saw the whole the Eiffel Tower, world. New York, LA, everything. there's no higher level of attainment from a spiritual perspective.
Right.
To be known by a color.
Yes.
Remember I talking about the palette? Right. Who's known by a color?
Right. That's right. That's right.
And a symbol. Who is known by a symbol?
Right. It was something.
And my mom, I took my mom for Mother's Day to those shows because, like I said, we were trying to go on Purple Rain.
Right.
84, never got there. And my mom don't go out to many concerts and stuff. And Prince wore us out. And we was both like,
he kept playing.
It's 8 encore or something like that.
Right.
Like, are y'all still here? Well, let me play another one then, But she said the energy was so, like, you go to concert, there's drunk people, there's like, when he said, okay, I want to do a family-friendly show. And who would have thought the guy in his bikini briefs would be doing a family-friendly show? Right. And in a bathtub and a bed on stage and stuff.
Years later.
Right.
Bring your kids.
Right. Bring your kids. I want them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But my mom was like, the show, the energy was so clean. Everybody was so warm. It was like, I was surprised. You know what I mean? I'm in LA, right? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, it's that symbol that he's got in the middle of the stage.
That's right.
That's a frequency.
That's right.
That he was on. And so everything around him had to vibrate at that frequency.
Superb. I mean, come on. we are very fortunate to have experienced all of that.
Right.
You know?
A divine being who's a reflection of our own divine divinity.
And that's why I often, I have to close the show up, but I do want to say this, like often when I speak in recovery circles, everything you just said, we are a mirror.
Yes.
So when I go and I speak to people, I'm not speaking to them so I help them.
Right.
I'm speaking to him because they're helping me.
That's
and I implore them. I often say to them, listen, this doesn't just pertain to people in recovery circles. This pertains to all humanity.
That's right.
A life without meaning and purpose is a meaningless life.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I implore you to find your inner source, like what it truly is about you. What is your driving force? It ain't about getting up in the morning and working a 9 to 5.
Right.
It ain't about, going on vacation twice a year with your family. It's about really seeing, like, what is your purpose on this earth?
Exactly.
That man found his purpose.
Exactly. Oh, no doubt.
That man found
and did it.
Yes, he did.
Like, and maxed it out. And I want to say one other thing that's very important for you and the work you do, for myself, everyone, is that when you live in a life of service to others, I don't know how you do this. I know you do it because you're sane, but it has to be a thing of like taking everyone's energy out of your aura, out of yourself, because it's like you can't go home with the people that you work with. Like you can't take them with you. You can't. You have to find a way to detach yourself from that energy,
Yeah.
And
take my empath wings off when I go to the house.
You do.
That's right.
Yeah, and and that's and one of the best ways to do it is just, again, like we did when we opened, is just be still and then just be thankful. For 5 minutes or 10 or 20, it's important. And actually that will, as we said when we walked in, that will get you through this time. Like, it's a terrible time. This is the greatest time it's ever been. I'm rejoicing. Time,
this is not a terrible time. It's a beautiful.
It's the greatest time.
That's right.
And we actually, all the struggles, all of the Rona, everything we said that we hate, we actually are the ones that requested it. Right. Because those are our weights that we need to get us to our God level. That's right. So we're like, give me this. Give me some drugs. Right. Like DMX. Right. Yo, so DMX. I love DMX, man. That dude, man, I always loved him, but like, and that's the thing too, there's something about when a great soul leaves their body, now you can see how great they were. And it's something like when you're really here, they say, give people their flowers where they live. But it's something like when a great spirit is no longer here, or even a smaller spirit, for some reason, now we can really value that. That's right. And we didn't, but DMX was the true example, since this is recovery. Yeah. And he never lied about who he was. Right. He never was he was upfront with it. Right. He was public with it. Right. And like one, I think it was Fat Joe or somebody was like, yo, we walk into a club and we see the mix. This nigga get down, he start praying for us in the club. I mean, he was the perfect example of the lotus blooming from the mud. From the mud, that's right. Where the lotus will bloom. And that's why you do the work that you do. When I was another life, that's what I would go to prisons and stuff, because I know that that's where God is. Christ can be found among the lepers and the lame. You know, among the dirt, Skid Row. That's where Christ is.
That's right.
You know, not up in the Calabasas. He's in the dirt. She's in the dirt.
Right.
And DMX represented that dirt. You know, and that divine energy of like desperation is like, I ain't got nowhere to eat but rob somebody.
Right.
And it doesn't sound divine, but that's a divine energy. The dog. So yeah, God bless DMX.
God bless him. Now, this is a special show. I really love this.
Special day, man.
It's a very special
Prince day. And the Sufis say, Rumi said, like when the soul leaves, that's his wedding day. That's his true.
That's the celebration.
That's a celebration.
Day.
So it's a celebration.
We're celebrating Prince today.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Purple Yoda.
He was the Purple Yoda. All right. I appreciate you coming out. Love you very much.
Love you too, bro.
And thank you all for tuning in today, those that did. And we are going to just phase it on out. Listen to lots of Prince today. All right?
Prince.
Lots.